Discover how a cleaner's unexpected tea connected a stranded millionaire in a heartwarming way. Alex Monroe stumbled out of his luxury car, heart racing with frustration. There he stood, on a desolate road far from the glitz of Silicon Valley. The air was thick with rural stillness. The sun beat down mercilessly, amplifying the raw ache of failure that clawed at him. Once a titan in the tech world, he was now just a man, stranded and grappling with the remnants of a shattered dream. The weight of his downfall pressed on his chest as he kicked the tires in exasperation, feeling the suffocating heat of despair all around him. Just then, he caught sight of a cozy little shop nestled between a laundromat and a small grocery store. Its faded sign swung in the breeze, Mary's Tea Emporium. Intrigued, he wiped his brow and made his way toward the door. As he stepped inside, the rich aroma of freshly brewed tea wrapped around him like a warm hug, transporting him to a world away from glossy boardrooms and relentless investors. The vibrant walls were lined with mismatched teapots, each containing stories of their own. Mary, a single mother with kind eyes and an easy smile, welcomed him like an old friend. "Can I interest you in a cup of tea?" Mary said, her voice a gentle melody that soothed the jagged edges of his frustration. Though he hesitated at first, something in her demeanor, a genuine warmth, pulled him in. He found himself sharing his journey, the triumphs that marked his rise, and the unforgiving fall that left him with nothing. Mary listened intently, nodding as if every word mattered. "That's some heavy stuff," she said softly, her eyes reflecting the light of understanding. She then opened up about her own struggles, the daily grind of balancing work and raising her 2 kids. As they sipped tea brewed from whispers of jasmine and hints of honey, they discovered more than just a shared room. They shared perseverance, a desperate hope, and a fierce love for their families. The laughter and connection flowed easily. The barriers of wealth and status began to dissolve like sugar melting in hot water. Before long, the sweet comfort of their conversations was interrupted by a sudden accident that rippled through their small community, shaking the very foundation of their newfound connection. Alex felt a tight knot form in his stomach as news spread of a tragic event that struck close to home. He was filled with guilt for having stepped away from his life, leaving behind the privileges he had known. Mary, on the other hand, wrestled with her fear of losing the little stability she had built for her family. As uncertainty loomed large, their friendship faced a daunting test. Alex contemplated retreating back into the shadows of his previous life, convinced that he would only drag Mary down into the hardships he had fled. Mary grappled with the pressure to move on, while her heart ached for the bond they had begun to forge. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the world feeling heavier than ever, both Alex and Mary stood at a crossroads, torn apart by their turbulent realities. The question lingered: could their unexpected bond weather the storm, or would the burdens of their pasts become too much to bear? As the clock ticked, their decisions poised to change everything. The air was thick with anticipation, leaving a lingering ache in the heart and excitement in the soul for what was to come. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the small town, Alex felt the tension between him and Mary like a taut wire, ready to snap. The sudden urgency of the accident weighed on his mind. What if he had chosen to stay? What if he could have made a difference? Guilt wrapped around him tightly, urging him to retreat into the comfort of his own cold, empty life. Mary stood at the counter, fiddling with a stray teabag, her brow furrowed in thought. She seemed lost in her world, her gaze distant. For a fleeting moment, Alex felt the full force of his desire to help her, to lift that weight on her shoulders. But could he? Could a man who once had everything and lost it all truly be of use to someone like Mary? "Hey," he said, his voice soft but firm. It pulled her from her thoughts. "You okay?" She looked up, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm just worried about the kids. They're too young to understand all this. Can't shake the feeling that everything I've built could crumble." The vulnerability in her voice struck Alex hard. Her fear mirrored his own. He took a deep breath, knowing that this wasn't just about him anymore. Maybe we can help each other, he suggested, words lingering between them. What do you mean? She asked, curiosity flaring in her eyes. I know I'm not in the best position myself, he said, waving his hand dismissively, as if trying to cast away his own doubts. But what if I used what resources I still have to help the community? The words spilled out of him, igniting a spark of responsibility he hadn't felt in months. We could organize something, a fund, or a drive. There has to be a way to bring people together. Mary stared at him, her expression shifting as if she were weighing his words carefully. That's a big step, she finally said. What if it fails? What if we don't reach anyone? Alex felt his heart pounding against his ribcage. Maybe it doesn't matter if we fail, he replied. What matters is that we try. For your kids, for the community, for us. A long silence enveloped them. It felt like the world outside had hushed, holding its breath. Finally, Mary nodded slowly, hope flickering into existence behind her thoughtful eyes. Okay, let us try. As they began brainstorming, the tension between them began to shift. Fear morphed into excitement as ideas flew around the little tea shop, fueled by a shared purpose. The flickering overhead lights seemed to brighten under the force of their newfound shared ambition. Just then, a loud commotion erupted outside, pulling their attention from their plans. A group of townsfolk had gathered, voices raised in heated debate. The palpable tension sliced through the air, and Alex felt his stomach flip. Mary glanced at him questioningly. Should we check it out? Heart racing, Alex felt the weight of their earlier conversation hang in the air. Yeah, let us go. They stepped outside, and chaos erupted around them. People were shouting, pointing fingers, and he could sense the building tension, the fear of the unknown brushing against the fabric of their community. What now? Alex whispered, anxiety creeping up his spine. But before Mary could answer, one man stepped forward, his voice clear above the rest. We need to unite. It's only together that we can get through this. As those words hung heavy in the air, Alex and Mary exchanged glances, realization dawning. They weren't just facing their own battles, they were part of something larger, something that called for unity in the face of struggle. But what would it mean to stand together when the ground felt so unstable beneath their feet? With the shadows lengthening and uncertainty rising, they both felt a wave of hope and fear washing over them. It was time to step forward. But could they rally the town, and themselves, to embrace a future together amidst chaos? Would the strength of their connection hold, or would the weight of their histories unravel everything once more? The crowd stirred like a pot about to boil over. Alex caught fragments of agitated conversations as they pushed closer together, a restless sea of faces marked by worry and uncertainty. Mary's grip on his arm tightened, pulling him toward the center of the turmoil. He couldn't tell if her anxiety was coming from the situation outside or from their shared mission. Either way, he felt her heartbeat echo beneath his fingertips, a reminder of their fragile alliance. Suddenly, a woman with frazzled hair stepped forward, her voice cut through the chatter like a siren. What are we waiting for? We need to come together. Our town is falling apart, and if we don't support each other, who will? Her words struck something deep in Alex. He glanced at Mary, her eyes wide and glistening with understanding. This wasn't just their fight anymore. This was about everyone. He took a deep breath, pushed through the throng to find a spot at the forefront. Listen, he called, and the crowd turned toward him. We're right. We can't just stand by. The kids need stability, the families need support, and we need each other. A murmur rippled through the crowd. It wasn't much a small, tentative sound, but Alex could feel a shift. They were listening. Mary joined him, standing firmly by his side. It's true. We all know each other. We all care. Let us come up with a way to support our families, our friends. Together, we have strength. A man in a baseball cap raised his voice, skeptical at first. And what if it doesn't work? What if we try and fail? Then we try again. Alex replied, his fervor igniting. Every time we fail, we learn. But doing nothing guarantees that we'll get nowhere. He saw a flicker of hope in the crowd. Some nodded, smiles surfacing slowly as doubt began to wane. People were starting to feel the weight of their interconnectedness, the responsibility they had for each other. It wasn't just a town anymore. It was a community, a real thing that could protect them as they faced the unknown. Okay, a voice called from the back, strong and steady. Let us meet. Don't we have the community center? It could be a good start. A low buzz of agreement spread through the crowd, gathering strength like a storm. Mary turned to Alex with determination shining in her eyes. We can start there. We can bring ideas, people hope. Suddenly, the chaos outside felt less daunting. With every moment, a bond was forming, a network of promise intertwining between them, hearts beating in unison. Alex felt a surge of energy, almost electric, like sparks after a summer rain. As the crowd began to disperse, buzzing with renewed purpose, Alex grabbed Mary's hand. I believe we can do this. I really do. She looked down, nearly shy for a moment before meeting his gaze. So do I. But as they started to turn back toward the tea shop, a loud crash echoed from the direction of the community center. The sound cut through the optimism like glass shattering in the night. What was that? Mary asked, her pulse quickening. I don't know, but we should check it out, Alex said, dread creeping back in. Before they could move, a panicked voice shouted, Someone's hurt. We need help. As they stood frozen for a moment, the enormity of the new challenge loomed ahead. Would they be able to rally again, or was this trouble too much for them to manage? Each heartbeat echoed a new question in their minds as they rushed into the gathering storm. What would they discover when they reached the epicenter of chaos? The noise outside the tea shop grew louder, filled with the clamor of desperate voices. Alex's heart raced as he led Mary through the throng, weaving between startled onlookers and concerned neighbors. Each step felt heavy, the weight of uncertainty pulling him down. They both knew the community center was supposed to be their sanctuary, a place where energy would translate into action. But now, fear crackled in the air. When they reached the entrance, the sight that greeted them was overwhelming. People were gathered around a fallen figure sprawled near the steps. A woman knelt beside him, frantically calling for help while holding a bloody cloth against the man's side. Panic surged through the crowd, a visceral wave of anxiety mixed with concern. What happened? Alex asked breathlessly as he joined the small circle around the injured man. He tripped. He fell hard on the steps, the woman exclaimed, her voice strained. He needs a doctor, fast. Mary instinctively dropped to her knees beside the woman. I'm a nurse. I can help. We need to keep him conscious. What is your name? She asked, her calm demeanor cutting through the chaos. David, the man gasped, his face pale, eyes flickering. I just wanted to get inside. We need more hands. Mary directed, now fully in control. She glanced up at Alex, and he understood. They were no longer just two people facing uncertainty. They were part of a community, driven by the instinct to help. Someone call 911. Alex shouted to the crowd, urgency threading through his words. That a man stepped forward from the back, his phone already in hand. On it, he confirmed, his brow furrowed with focus. As Mary held David's head in her hands, Alex focused on the others, trying to organize the growing turning tide of concerned citizens. We need more light. Someone get a flashlight. A young woman rushed forward, her phone's flashlight beam illuminating the scene. Alex knelt beside Mary, meeting her eyes for a moment, and he felt the spark of resolve there. This was the moment he wanted to build upon, the strength they had tapped into. Just breathe, David, Mary gently instructed, her voice soothing despite the tension swirling around them. Help is on the way. You're going to be okay. David's breath came shallow, and Alex could see the fear in his eyes. What if I don't make it? I don't want to die here. Listen to me, Alex said, leaning closer. Look around. You're not alone. We're all here. You're part of this town. We're going to get you through this. I swear. The crowd murmured softly, each person feeling the weight of his plea, a thread tying them together. They had all faced hardships in varied forms: loss, fear, doubt. But at this moment, unity was life, propelling them toward action instead of letting despair sink them. That a chorus of voices joined in, encouraging David, reminding him that he wasn't invisible, that he mattered. Mary continued giving him instructions about breathing, about staying focused on her voice. Suddenly, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder and clearer. A wave of relief washed over the gathered crowd. Mary's expression was a mixture of worry and fierce determination. Finding a way for them to push forward wasn't just about saving David anymore. It was about proving their community could rise together from anything. As the paramedics arrived, Alex felt something larger stir within him, a deep-rooted belief in the bond they had forged. But just as they were about to breathe a sigh of relief, a new voice rang out, sharp and accusatory above the commotion. "What is going on here? Who is responsible for this?" The crowd turned, startled, and Alex felt his stomach drop. They were already fragile. Another storm was brewing. What now? Would the warmth of togetherness hold, or were they about to face a deeper challenge? The crowd parted slightly as a tall figure emerged, his posture rigid and eyes narrowed with scrutiny. A middle-aged man dressed sharply in a suit stood there, as out of place as a tuxedo at a beach party. His gaze swept across the group, and Alex could sense the tension radiating from him. This wasn't just a question. It was a demand for accountability in a moment that required empathy. "Who is responsible?" The man repeated, his voice laced with authority. "This man is hurt. Someone has to admit they're at fault." Alex felt the atmosphere change. A shared unease rippled through the onlookers. David's condition was critical, and now, with accusations looming overhead, it felt like a bad dream where the nightmare was only beginning. They had come together instinctively, but now the fragile unity threatened to shatter. "Sir, this isn't the time," someone from the back of the crowd called out, unease creeping into his tone. "All we need is a doctor." The suited man huffed, eyes still darting like a hawk searching for its prey. "Is that your justification? Just calling for help while avoiding responsibility?" Mary remained focused on David, whose breaths were growing more labored. "We can't argue he needs help. It's not about blame," she said, her voice cutting through the growing tension. Another voice echoed, "What if it was an accident? Who are you to judge?" Alex stepped closer to the man, his heart thumping loud in his chest. "Look, none of this matters right now. If you want to help, you could start by getting off your high horse and assist us instead." The words hung thick in the air. Alex knew he had escalated the situation, but he couldn't let this man derail the fragile progress they'd made. The eyes in the crowd flickered between them, some showing sympathy, others disbelief. The man straightened, his tone slightly softer but not wholly devoid of edge. I just came here to ensure my family is safe. This center, it's a refuge for them. I can't stand idly by while someone else's negligence could ruin everything." A murmur rippled through the crowd, echoing his concerns. They all felt at the fear of being responsible for someone else's well-being. Alex glanced around. They were divided now. Part of them wanted to defend their community, while another part was guided by self-preservation. Mary's hand was still pressed against David, tears glimmering in her eyes as she whispered words of encouragement. "Stay with us, David," she urged, brushing her thumb across his brow. "Help is here." The sirens finally arrived, blaring through the chaos like an alarm clock interrupting a bad dream. Paramedics rushed past the onlookers, and as they assessed David's injuries, the sharp-dressed man stepped back, the fight draining from him. The crowd's attention shifted, realizing they were watching a life hanging by a thread. All the annoyance, the accusations, the blame, it melted into adrenaline and fear for David's life. Could they overcome the fractures built in moments of panic and uncertainty? A few moments later, while David was stabilized, someone from the crowd finally found the courage to ask, "What if it was one of us? What if next time we needed each other?" The suited man hesitated, a flicker of remorse crossing his features. "Maybe I overreacted. It's just, fear can make us act like this." Alex trained his eyes on him, understanding now. Fear can divide us, but it can also unite us. It's our choice, isn't it? As the paramedics lifted David onto a stretcher amid murmurs of concern, Alex's heart beat with newfound clarity. They weren't just gathered around a fallen man. They were a community, and every person mattered. But the deeper question lingered: could they navigate their fears and emerge stronger, or would they allow differences to push them apart just when unity was most needed? As the stretcher began to glide away, Alex glanced back at the man in the suit, wondering if their fragile connection could survive beyond this moment. Would they truly find hope in this chaos? The commotion faded as the paramedics worked with precision, voices blending into a hum of urgency. But Alex couldn't shake the gravity of the moment. He watched David being whisked away, surrounded by a team of professionals whose faces were set in determined masks. In that chaos, however, Alex couldn't ignore the sharp-dressed man's sudden vulnerability. The crowd watched, breaths held, some backs retreating into the shadows as the reality of their shared responsibility sank in. It was a community gathering under the harsh light of accountability, and Alex felt like it could splinter at any second. "What now?" someone whispered, breaking the silence, eyes darting back and forth between Alex and the man in the suit. The man inhaled deeply. "I didn't want this," he murmured, almost to himself. "I thought I was doing the right thing, protecting my family. But what about this community?" Alex stepped closer, voice steadier. "You can't just shield your own and ignore the rest. What if the next time it's someone else? We need a stronger bond." The man glanced at Alex, eyes swirling with uncertainty. They were two sides of the same coin, one seeking safety and the other, unity. "I don't know if I can change," he admitted, shoulders slumping. "But that's the thing," Alex insisted, a flame of hope flickering inside him. "You can't do it alone. None of us can." The crowd leaned in, captivated. They weren't merely spectators anymore. They were witnesses to a fracture beginning to heal. Just then, Mary, still shaken but filled with resolve, stepped forward. "We can't let fear hold us back. David needs us now more than ever. If we stand together, we can get through anything." Her voice, though choked with emotion, was like a lifeline. A moment of silence swept across the gathering as people exchanged glances. They were reminded of the deeper connections they had, or could have, if only they took the leap. Wasn't that what community was about? An elderly woman from the back of the crowd raised her hand hesitantly. "Maybe it's not just about blame or fear. Perhaps it's about support. Moments like these can show us who we really are." "That's right," a young man added, voice gaining strength as people nodded along. "If we're going to make it through, we have to stand for one another, lift each other up in our hardest times." Alex realized he was no longer speaking to just the man in the suit. They had transformed into a circle of faces, each one unraveling the threads of their fears. And this tapestry of shared vulnerabilities created a warmth that wrapped around them all, igniting the desire to connect. The suited man swallowed hard, his barriers cracking as he looked at the crowd. "I am willing to try," he declared, his words a tentative bridge toward understanding. "We can find a way to help each other. This can't happen again." Cheers erupted, mixed with tears as the crowd began to nod and murmur in agreement. A resolve had settled over them, no longer just a collection of individuals, but a community committed to rising together. But then, just as the atmosphere shifted into something hopeful, a shrill scream pierced the air. It sliced through the camaraderie like a knife. Everyone turned, hearts racing again. A figure was pushing through the crowd, eyes wide and frantic. What happened to David? Panic rippled back through the crowd, nerves taut. Uncertainty rose anew, threatening to bury the connection they just forged. Would the fear take hold again, or could they truly rise together in this moment of need? As the crowd stirred, Alex took a step forward, ready to face whatever came next. Could their strength withstand this new storm? The sudden scream sent tremors of fear through the crowd, freezing Alex in place. He could see the panic ripple like waves, each face reflecting a mix of dread and curiosity. The frantic figure made her way through the crowd, her chest heaving and eyes wide, searching, hoping for answers. "David, where's David?" she cried again, desperation tainting her voice. Her brown hair, pushed back with frantic fingers, glistened with sweat, and Alex recognized her as David's sister, Lily. Without thinking, he moved closer, extending a hand to stop her. "Lily, wait," he managed to say. His own chest felt tight. "He's with the paramedics. They're doing everything they can." Lily's gaze pierced through him. Her vulnerability ignited something deep within Alex. It was easy to forget that grief could hit anyone hard, in waves, at any moment. In the cacophony of voices, he saw the darkness of fear loom over them like a thundercloud. "Can someone get me to him?" she asked, her voice breaking. Before he could answer, the suited man stepped forward, a sudden flush of red on his cheeks. "I'll take you," he said, surprising himself as much as anyone. "I know the way to the hospital. Richard, lend me your car?" A tall man confirmed silently with a nod, confusion still etched on his face. It was a moment of quiet understanding that rippled through the crowd. They were just beginning to forge connections, to come together as a community, and now stood on the precipice of something new again. Lily looked from the suited man to Alex, her eyes wide with bewilderment. "Who are you?" "My name is," he hesitated, the weight of his actions still heavy on his conscience. "I'm just someone who wants to help." She grasped his hand, her grip firm and desperate, as if it would anchor her amidst the chaos swirling around them. "Thank you," she whispered, the moment heavy with unspoken gratitude. The suited man turned and began to lead Lily away, while another voice rang through the crowd. "We can't just stand here," Alex shouted, rallying the onlookers. "David needs all of us now more than ever. Let us get organized, let's move together." Panic was slowly replaced by a resurgence of purpose. Some began to pull out their phones. Others moved forward to arrange carpools, to call loved ones, or simply offer reassurance to Lily. Hope blossomed like wildflowers in a spring meadow. Risky, yet beautiful they coordinated. Alex found a moment to breathe. He felt a difference in the air, something new, a ripple of possibility. It was then he noticed the elderly woman from earlier, smiling at him. "You've got a good heart, son," she said softly, and it was as if her words ignited a warmth deep within him. With every moment that ticked by, Alex felt the bonds tightening. Perhaps tragedy could lead to rebirth. Certainly, the connections forming could steer them toward healing. But just as the plan to move forward began to take shape, a figure emerged at the edge of the gathering, dark and imposing. A chill swept over Alex as he recognized him. It was Rick, the man who had challenged the community as cohesion before. His expression was unreadable, an emotional wall that sparked a worry deep in Alex. What was Rick planning now? As tension filled the air once more, Alex could only wonder what Rick's presence would mean for the group he'd just begun to unify. Would the fragile connections they had forged hold, or would Rick's shadow threaten to spiral them back into fear? The crowd's buzz shifted, eyes darting toward Rick. It was as if he had cast an ominous shadow over their moment of collective purpose. Alex felt every heartbeat echoing through the gathering, a shared pulse of anxiety, still low but growing louder. "Get back, Rick!" Someone shouted from the back, a voice edged with defiance. No one wanted to face him, yet everyone felt the pull of confrontation. Alex thought of David, and how in that hospital, time could be slipping away. He clenched his fists, refusing to let fear dominate. "What do you want, Rick?" Alex questioned, stepping closer, his voice steady even as adrenaline coursed through him. He locked eyes with Rick, searching for the threat lurking behind the man's unreadable expression. Rick's gaze skated over the group before landing on Alex. "I want to make sure this doesn't turn into a circus, that's all." His tone dripped with disdain. Panic doesn't help anyone. Alex could feel the tension spiraling, creating a rift. "What are you talking about?" His heart raced, urgency propelling him forward. "We're here to help. To support Lily and David." The crowd murmured in agreement, some stepping closer, emboldened by Alex's words. For every flicker of doubt Rick ignited, Alex was determined to fan the flames of hope and resolve. "We're all in this together. We can't let," he paused, searching for the right words. "We can't let fear divide us now." Rick shrugged, but his reluctance wasn't well masked under the bravado. "People are scared, Alex. They don't know what to do. If you keep pushing them, they might just run. That's why we need each other. In a moment like this, we can't afford to let go," Alex said, scanning the faces around him. Glimmers of understanding began to sprinkle among them, transforming his desperation into determination. "We need to make a plan, and we need everyone here." Rick opened his mouth, but the momentary silence faltered. People began to share their ideas. A former EMT, a teacher, even a high school kid eager to help stepped forward. One voice joined another, and suddenly there was a wave of purpose that pulsed through the air. "Let us start a list of who can drive, and who can help around the hospital." Someone yelled. "I can grab first aid kits," shouted another. As they rallied enthusiasm, Alex felt a warmth spread through him again. This was the kind of community action he had yearned to see. Just when the tide seemed to be turning, Rick spoke, frustration tight in his voice. "Don't you all see? You're just prolonging this. What's the point?" Alex turned to him, his heart pounding. "The point is that we do this together. We can't back down now, not when people need us most." Rick fell silent, lips pressed together. The moment stretched taut between accusation and desire, but Alex held on to the thread of connection forming around him. Then, unexpectedly, an elderly man who had been watching quietly stepped forward. I know what it means to lose someone, but I also know what it means to love. Let us show them all that love isn't just a word, it's an action. Let us do this. Shock rippled through Rick, and for the first time, confusion flickered across his expression. He seemed to be weighing something deep inside. Maybe it was that one moment of vulnerability that could reshape everything, thinking more than just of himself. But just as Alex began to believe they were turning the tide, a siren blared in the distance, echoing their fears back to them. Would it bring hope or further despair? What if it's too late? Alex whispered to himself, yet he clung to the belief that together they could face whatever came next. As the sound grew closer, all eyes went to the road, each heart racing with uncertainty. And then, someone inside the crowd gasped, "What if this is all a setup?" Alex felt the ground tremble beneath them. How much darker could it get? What sort of storm awaited on the unseen horizon? The siren's wail sliced through the atmosphere, a harsh reminder of the stakes at hand. Alex's heart lurched as the sound drew near, mingling with the murmurs of worry rippling through the crowd. Faces turned pale, some eyes wide with terror, while others shimmered with defiance. The elderly man who had spoken before looked around, his expression a mix of courage and concern, as if he could feel the collective weight of hope and fear. What if it's a trap? That voice echoed again, panic sinking into the hearts of those gathered. The fear was palpable, hanging thick like humidity before a storm. Alex took a deep breath and stepped forward, shaking his head. We can't let doubt creep in. We owe it to Lily and David to stand strong. Rick stood hunched, arms crossed, wrestling with a fast-shifting expression. Something flickered behind his eyes, perhaps the recognition that a community united could outshine fear. He looked at Alex, eyebrows knitted, searching for an answer yet unwilling to admit it. Suddenly, the siren quieted. A moment of silence followed, stretching in the air, hovering just long enough for everyone to consider what it meant. Alex felt his instincts sharpen, ready for anything. His gut told him this was a pivotal moment, and he needed to seize it. "Everyone," he called out, lifting his voice to capture their attention. "This is our moment to act. If we're standing here together, it means we choose to fight for our friends. We choose love over fear." From somewhere behind him, someone shouted, "We had each other before, and we're not losing that now." The crowd murmured in agreement, voices rising like a wave building momentum. A young woman near the front grabbed her phone and started a group chat called Team Lily and David. Others quickly joined, pouring their ideas into the digital space like a flood. As plans began to unfold, who would bring food, who would drive, who would keep lookout. Rick could only watch, still locked in his own inner turmoil. After a moment, he leaned forward, voice barely above a whisper. "What if this isn't enough? What if it doesn't matter?" Alex turned to him, determination shining in his eyes. What if it is enough? What if by coming together, we can make the difference? It's not just about today, it's about what we'll do for each other in the future. We'll prove that love can be a catalyst. The words hung in the air, a challenge igniting something in Rick. Slowly, he began to unfold his arms as if the weight of them had become too much to bear. Just then, the crowd erupted again. A small van pulled up, lights blinking, and doors swung open. Volunteers ran out, ready to lend their support. Relief washed over the crowd, but unease settled deep within Alex. It felt almost too easy, as if the sirens had come not as warning but as something else. Before he could voice his concern, the elderly man spoke again, his voice filled with conviction. "This is just the start. We need to prepare both for the hope ahead and the challenges that lie in darkness." His words settled like stones in the hearts of those gathered. One by one, they nodded, understanding the duality of their situation. The road ahead remained uncertain, but now they stood collectively under the strain of hope and fear. Just as Alex felt the warmth of connection bloom, a figure emerged from the van, someone they hadn't expected to see. His heart sank as the past rushed back, and the crowd fell silent, all eyes wide with anticipation and apprehension. "Rick," the figure said, voice steady but low, "we need to talk, and time is running out." What lay behind those words sent a chill down Alex's spine. What revelations awaited? As the crowd fell silent, the tension hung thick in the air. The newcomer stepped forward, a familiar face wrapped in shadows, someone Alex had hoped never to see again. It was Dan, his former business partner, the very embodiment of betrayal. "What are you doing here?" Alex's voice trembled, a blend of anger and disbelief. Memories of shattered trust flooded his mind, moments of ambition now twisted into reminders of loss. Dan raised his hands, palms outward in a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to fight. I need you to listen." The crowd shifted uneasily. Whispers bounced around like fireflies in the dark. "What does he want?" Mary muttered beside Alex, her expression a mix of confusion and alarm. "David," Dan began, "He is my brother. I heard what happened and came to help." His voice cracked, revealing a vulnerability so rare it made the atmosphere thrum. "I was angry at him, and at you, but we're family. I can't turn my back." Shocked gasps filtered through the onlookers. Alex felt a pulse of discomfort in his gut, a mix of old wounds and flickers of compassion. "Why should we trust you?" He shot back, trying to mask the uncertainty creeping in. "I messed up," Dan replied, eyes glistening with remorse. "But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help him." A silence fell, punctuated by the urgent sirens still ringing in the distance. The weight of what lay ahead pressed down heavily on their shoulders. They needed to stand strong, but the specter of betrayal loomed large. "Trust takes time," Mary said, stepping forward with cautious grace. "But right now, it's not about you or Alex. It's about David. We need to focus on him." And just like that, the threads of community wove back together, harmonizing the hope of salvation with the fear of loss. The crowd breathed as one, the bond strengthening, brushing aside disbelief in favor of compassion. "All right," Alex finally exhaled, a heavy decision settling deep within him. "We'll give you a chance, but if you falter, if there's one sign of betrayal," his voice trailed off, loaded with the weight of his past. He locked eyes with Dan. This was the moment when trust teetered on a precipice. "Understood," Dan responded, sincerity ringing clear. "I'll help you organize everyone. Together, we can get through this." The crowd responded to this new dynamic with cautious optimism. Some nodded, others still hung back, their uncertainty palpable. Yet, amidst it all, sparks of unity ignited, illuminating the path ahead. "We need a plan," Mary declared, her voice cutting through the haze of emotions. "Let us gather supplies, create a support team, and coordinate with the hospital. We can share responsibilities, keep families informed and cared for." The chatter rose like the tide, flowing with ideas: who would manage supplies, who would keep communication lines open, who would tend to Lily as she awaited news of David. Alex felt the budding strength in every voice, reminding him of their shared purpose, a mission greater than their individual fears. Everyone worked to organize. Alex felt a renewed sense of belonging. This was more than a gathering of care. It was a renaissance of community, woven together by resilience and shared hopes for the future. In that moment, Rick stepped forward, cheeks flushed with the realization that his perspective had shifted. "I see it now. All this, it can't just be about fear. Maybe I was wrong. Let us build something better together." The crowd murmured in agreement, a whisper of unity settling over them. They were ready to embrace not just the challenge ahead, but also the strength found in vulnerability, a reminder that love, when harnessed, could heal even the deepest wounds. As the final pieces fell into place, Alex glanced at Mary. Her eyes sparkled with determination, reflecting the emotions surging through him. "We can do this," he whispered, a smile curling his lips, genuine and bright. "Together," she replied, her voice steady and unwavering. With a shared glance, a silent promise passed between them. They had feared the storm, but now they embraced it head-on, driven by a collective strength that could lift them high. And as they prepared to move, to face whatever awaited, the sun began to dip below the horizon. It cast a hopeful glow over their small town, igniting the very essence of community in every soul. That's when the sirens receded into the distance, but hope emerged. And with it, a resolve to rise together against all odds. They turned to face the future with renewed courage. Alex thought back to the tea shop, the laughter, the journeys shared, and the lives touched. Life's fragility had brought them together, but now, it was their warmth, commitment, and love that would light the way. This was just the beginning. Now it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share your support. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.